So an official warm welcome from Holborn Pass and from Mercan to everyone who's joining us from all over the world. Now, the Portuguese Prime Minister made this infamous statement a couple of weeks ago, and of course it's caused some waves within the industry, and that's why we're launching this webinar. And the aim is to answer some questions, add some value, to try and explain to people what may happen and when, and how it affects those people interested in the Portuguese Golden Visa. And the parties to this webinar is a little bit different from normal. So we've actually got the #1 developer within the industry as part of our presentation, which we're very, very pleased about. We're very proud to be able to present this to you. And that is the company of Mercan. So the agenda is going to be that I will briefly tell you about us at Holborn Pass, but then we're going to pass over to the experts, and I will introduce the three people you can see. It is Jordi, who's the leader at Mercan, and then Sylvia, who is the expert on the legal side. And then also we have Karina, who's the local representative in the GCC region, actually based here in Dubai. So that's going to be the format, but I'm mindful there's a few people still joining as we're speaking. So I'll just reiterate that background information again for those people who are just joining. So a really, really warm welcome from Holborn Pass and from Mercan. Thanks for joining the webinar wherever you are around the world. It could be morning, afternoon or evening, but we really appreciate your time. So the Portuguese Prime Minister made the infamous statement a couple of weeks ago about the potential end of the programme. And of course, that could cause some momentum, some people perceiving that it's time to rush. So we wanted to launch a webinar and help answer some of the queries that are inevitably going to come out. And we thought the best people to have to help us host such a webinar is the experts, the #1 developer in the market, Mercan. And we've got three people from Mercan who are kindly helping us today. And that's Jordi, the leader. We have Sylvia, the legal specialist, and we have Karina, who's the local representative in the GCC, actually based here in Dubai. Okay, so the agenda as follows is I'll give you a brief introduction to Holborn Pass. Most of you know us. A lot of people have been invited as a result of already having spoken to us, but there is some new people who thankfully said yes to the invitation we sent out. So I'll just give you a quick heads up on Holborn Pass and the Holborn Group, and then I'll pass over to the experts. First of all, will be Jordi kicking off and telling us all about Mercan and why Mercan will be the safe route to be able to navigate these uncertain times. Then we're going to pass over to Sylvia. And at any stage during this, if we need help from Karina as well, Karina's on hand to help us also. Then at the end, we're going to do the Q&A session. And this is the opportunity for everyone to ask pretty much whatever you want, you know, about the statement, about the scheme potentially coming to an end, but equally importantly about Mercan, why they are the #1, why they do provide the safest option down the real estate route. So we're hoping to add some value, maybe remove some uncertainty, answer some of the really, really challenging questions out there in the market right now. And yeah, you're invited to use the Q&A facility, which is the bottom of your screen, towards the end of the session. And we're predicting that this could run anywhere between 35 minutes to 60 minutes, all subject to the number of questions you have. Okay, so that's the agenda, everyone. Very, very briefly, let me introduce Holborn Group and Holborn Pass. We are the world's leading brokerage dealing with the Portuguese Golden Visa. Last year, we did over 10% of global applications. We are a 24-year-old company with 17 offices around the world. So we're a safe pair of hands, very, very safe. And whatever we say will get done, will get done. Mercan is our primary partner. As I say, they're the #1 developer in the industry as well. So this webinar brings a really, really powerful partnership to the fore. Okay, what I'd like to do at this juncture now is invite Jordi to take over. And he can tell you all about Mercan and the way that Mercan operate, why they're the best, why they're the #1, and why this safe pair of hands is going to be essential over the forthcoming 6 months, 18 months, 12 months, whatever is going to pan out in front of us during this period of relative uncertainty. So over to you, Jordi. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. So thank you, Mark, and thank you, Holborn, for this opportunity. So before I start, let me just share with you our experience on the Portuguese program and the eventual changes. So as it happened at the end of 2020, when some changes were announced, because of the technicalities of the national budget, yes, we expect that there'll be some discussions about the changes in the program. And as it happened in 2020, that some changes were announced at the beginning of 2021 to be implemented in 2022, January 1st, 2022. So yes, we expect some changes to be implemented by the end of 2023. So as far as we know, as far as we are concerned, we think that 2023, during 2023, will be a very safe year to invest before any eventual changes might happen at the end of that year. So having said that, and I'll let also Sylvia, the lawyer, maybe do some remarks on that matter. So thank you for this opportunity. Let me introduce a bit of the Mercant Group, what we've been doing internationally since 1989, and what we're doing in Portugal, and what are the projects that today we have available for subscription.
We were one of the first companies in Canada to get involved in the Canadian Immigrant Investor Program, which started in 1989, and we grew that to where we're the top immigration group in Canada today.
So the arrival of Mercant to Portugal happened in 2015. Why Mercant arrived to Portugal? So basically, Mercant was already a leading performer and practitioner in the area of immigration by investment, with a leading role in North America. So then we decided that Europe was probably the next great opportunity.
And when we looked at Europe, we analyzed everything, we realized Portugal was the best place to go.
We are a unique integrated solution provider.
We always work with an internationally branded hotel, which gives you a comfort and confidence that this is a good product. We have great locations, and hospitality location is everything.
Portugal was offering a program that allowed investors that just by being in Portugal 7 days per year, after 5 years, they would have access to citizenship.
And finally, we have an exit strategy where you can feel very comfortable that you're going to get your money back once you get your passport.
Our investments are very safe. So today we are the leading real estate developer in rehabilitation of products into hospitality.
In terms of Mercant, one of the reasons for our success is the quality and the talent of the people that work with us. On the development side, we ensure that we have the top engineers, the top accountants, the top finance people, and the top managers to manage the property, to deliver a very, very good, fine product, and to look after our investors' money.
It's also because we have the support of the major brands, which is Marriott, Hilton, IAG, and Wyndham.
And what we try and do is to help people achieve their dreams or their goals, whether it be going as a simple worker, or whether it be going to join family, or whether it's on an economic basis. We're there to help people and to give them good, honest advice and to help make their dreams come true.
So in terms of the Mercant Group, we started in 1989. Today we have offices in 7 different countries in the world. We're based in Montreal, and most of the activity today is related to the Mercant, to the Portuguese Golden Visa program. In terms of how we learned about this business, was not only about being active with the Canadian Investor Immigration Program, but also with the US. With EB5, we had done 38 projects in the US. So it was basically through the business model of the buyback in the US, having investors getting the green card, then after 4 or 5 years, getting the final green card, and as developers buying them back. So that's what we learned, starting back in the 90s, that and we brought to Portugal. In terms of Portugal, today we have an operation of over 100 people. We're based in Porto with offices in Lisbon and with supporting services in Lagos. Today we are the largest developer in this category in Portugal, which means that 1 out of 2 Golden Visa applicants, they invest into our properties. In terms of operations, we already have more than 200 people being employed in our hotels. In terms of asset management, today, actually, we are close to the 700 million euros in terms of number of projects in development. There's two other partners that I would like to mention. One who is in this panel represented by Sylvia, is the legal services provider, EAS. She will talk about that. And then the hotel management company, so AHM, which provides the hotel management to all the properties that are under the Mercant ecosystem here in Portugal. And as I'll mention, one of the key features of our business model is that all our properties, we have a franchise either with Marriott, with Hilton, with IAG, Holiday Inn, Intercontinental, or with Wyndham. One of the key questions that is relevant in terms of going forward is, what does the tourist market look like in Portugal? How does COVID, how did COVID affect that? Is it the tourist market, is it coming back? And the good news is that in Europe, Portugal was the first country to come back to 2019 figures, which gives us a lot of confidence and comfort about our outlook in terms of continuing to invest into tourism infrastructure here in Portugal. In terms of why Portugal, so there's no doubt the number one feature today that where Portugal stands out is safety. So Portugal is the third safest country in the world, and today that's probably the most recognized feature in making a decision like getting a second residency or second citizenship. In terms of additional features that we like to underline in Portugal, of course, free health services, a very strong passport. Best destination in Europe has been appointed by Condé Nast, one of the leading publications, and also has been named as the preferred destination for expats. So altogether makes the Portugal brand very strong. In terms of destination for tourists, again and again, Porto and Lisbon, they are in the top tier of all the different awards that you can see, all the travel awards that you can see around the world. Now, in terms of projects. So in terms of projects, there's two categories. There are the projects that are located in Porto or in Lisbon, which means that in terms of rehabilitation, the investment is 350,000 euros, and the projects that are outside Porto and Lisbon, in the area of rehabilitation, 280,000 euros. And the difference is that on the 350,000 euros, there's a 3% return from the time the hotel is open. On the 280,000 euros, there's no return. On both cases, we pay for the property taxes and the VAT tax, which is in some cases close to 30,000 euros. And in both cases, you get 7 days free stay in your property or upon availability in any of the other properties of the Mercant Group. In terms of, before I go into the two properties which are available, as I mentioned before, we were the first ones in Portugal to come and invest into that category back in 2015, in the rehabilitation category. We're also the first ones to offer a co-ownership model, means each investor owns a percentage, and we're the first ones to introduce the buyback model, which, as I mentioned, we have been doing for over 20 years in the US. So those are the three pioneering features of the Mercant Group in Portugal. In addition to that, because also of our experience with the brands, all our brands, so all our properties are franchised. As I mentioned, Marriott, Hilton, Holiday Inn, Intercontinental, or Wyndham. What they bring to our business model is, number one, the validation of the business plan in terms of average daily rate and occupancy rate. Number two, guidance on the architectural design and on the interior design. And number three, probably the most important thing they bring, which is the reservation system. In terms of the current project, so we have two projects available, one 280,000 euros investment in Faro in the Algarve, and the other one in Lisbon, a 350,000 euro investment. Let me just go briefly through it. I'll start with the Lisbon Sky View, which is going to be a double tree by Hilton, next to the airport. There's three things I want to underline here. One, which is location, two, which is design, and three, which is the investment proposition. In terms of design, we have one of the three top architects in Portugal, Saraiva, with whom we've been working also in other properties. In terms of location, as you can briefly see from here, is right next to the airport, is 15 minutes from the center, from the historic center of Lisbon, and it's about 10 minutes from the business center. So we think that this location is probably one of the best locations for a hotel which combines leisure and business. In terms of the project itself, it's an existing building, which is an office building that we are reconverting into a hotel. In terms of design, you can see the design from the Hilton DoubleTree brand. It's going to be the only international branded hotel in the airport area. That's why one of the appeals for this hotel is to host the international airline cruise in this property. It will have two swimming pools, gym, and so we talked about design, we talked about the location, and now let's talk about the investment proposition. So that's going to be for 210 investors, 350,000 euros. We pay for the IMT, which is the property tax. We pay for the value-added tax, and then the investors get a 3% return from the time the hotel is open. Also, like in any other property, the investors can enjoy 7 days free stay per year, which actually coincides with the 7 days that, as Sylvia later on will mention, 7 days that you need to stay in Portugal during your Golden Visa journey. The expected completion date is third quarter 2024. We have all the permitting in place. We have the licenses in place, and we expect to start construction very soon. This project is 75% subscribed. So subscription should be probably completed by the end of November. In terms of appraisal, the property independent appraisal is around 79 million, which means that the total investment amount, so this appraisal is about 10% over the total investment amount, which gives the comfort to the investors that their investment, the value they're getting, is well, or it's above market value. Now let's talk about 280,000 euros. The Riverside in Faro, that's going to be an Indigo IAG franchised property. It's in the Algarve. It's actually Faro is the capital of the Algarve. It's where the airport of the Algarve is located, with year-round regular airlines or regular flights going there. In terms of the design, this, as I mentioned, will be an Indigo IHG design. In terms of the city itself, again, it's a combination of leisure, because it's very close to the beaches that we will see now. So if you look at the location, it's very close to one of the best beaches in the Algarve. And because it's the capital of the Algarve, it's going to attract also business, because of being a hub of both tourist industry, a hub of agricultural industry, and also a hub of all kinds of services that are being provided to the rest of the Algarve from Faro. In terms of design, a very modern design, the new line, the new style from Indigo, with a swimming pool, with a gym. And then in terms of the investment overview, so that's a call for 145 investors, 280,000 euros investment. There's no return here, but there's the 7 days free stay with a guaranteed buyback. In both cases, the 350,000 and the 280, there's a guaranteed buyback. And this guaranteed buyback happens either on year 6, anyone can decide to ask for the buyback. So as developers, we're obliged to do the buyback. The second option is when you will get the citizenship. So that's the second milestone, so to speak, or the second timeline option. And then the third timeline option, you can stay for a number of years till year 12. But mainly is about when you get your citizenship, we will obviously buy you back. In terms of project timeline, this is also around 70% subscribed. It should be fully subscribed by the end of the month, beginning of December, and expected completion date the third quarter of 2024. Now, just to summarize the Mercant Group and our activity here in Portugal, the first thing we would like to share in terms of our track record are the 5 hotels which are currently already operating with occupancy rates well above the market, with Booking.com rating. There's no other hotel chain, so to speak, in Portugal that has all the operating hotels with a ranking with over 9%. So we have an IHG property, 5-star hotel in the center of Porto. We have then Casas Lérias in the Douro region. We have a Hilton property in the center of Porto. We have a Marriott property, 4 Points by Sheraton in the greater Porto. And we also have a Wyndham in the center of Porto. In terms of the properties that we plan to open in the coming months, we'll have a Renaissance, the largest convention center in the center of Porto, Marriott property. And then we will have another Marriott property, a Hilton property, Porto Arts Hotel, another Tapestry, which will open soon, and the Hilton Garden Inn, which will be the first international branded hotel in Évora. In terms of other properties that are at different levels of development, we have another Marriott property. We have a Portugal Suites, and then we have another Holiday Inn Express in Lisbon. We have a Holiday Inn Express in Évora under development, a Marriott Resort in the south of Portugal, and a Hilton Resort also in the south of Portugal. In the center of Porto, we have the second tower for the Marriott property, the convention center. And that's, in a nutshell, a summary of what the Mercant Group is globally and what the Mercant Group is doing in Portugal. And now I'll pass it to Sylvia, the lawyer, to talk about the legal services provision, and we'll take questions after that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordi. Welcome,
Hello.
Sylvia.
Hi, hello. So it's very nice to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. I will start now the sharing of my screen. Okay, so as Jordi mentioned, I work at International Atlantic Services. We are a consultancy experts in immigration by investment in Portugal, and we are partners from Mercon. We work with investors from Mercon. So we are a dynamic and effective team of lawyers and paralegals who provide trustworthy and confidential advice to our investors about their strategic decisions. We have more than 1,000 successful Golden Visa applications, and we are focused on the real estate rehabilitation investment category. What distinguishes us from other law firms, from the traditional law firms, is that we are specialized in the Golden Visa process. So by choosing our company, you will have lawyers and paralegals that are 100% focused in your file. We do not take care of other aspects, and I think that that's a very important thing to mention. Other important thing to mention here is that more than 50% of all the Golden Visa applications under that category have been processed by US lawyers. We are located in Porto and Lisbon, and we are a team of 15 lawyers and 10 paralegals. All of us are at least bilingual, but we also have lawyers and paralegals that speak Chinese, Russian, and other languages. So we are very prepared to receive all the clients from all over the world. About what we do for our clients, we provide a full service from the beginning till the end of the process. We do the drafting of the legal documents. We help our clients to obtain their Portuguese taxpayer numbers, and we open the bank account on their behalf. And we also do the contracts with the account manager, everything on the behalf of the clients. We will be the ones to be at the public deed representing the clients and do all the payments associated by the client's bank account. We will register the transfer of the ownership. We will help the clients with the translation of all the documents that are issued in English, Spanish, or French. And with some associated fees, we will also help them in other languages. We do also the certification of all the required documents. We do the online submission. We schedule the biometrics for our clients, and we do the full support of the clients during the biometrics. After that, we will do all the follow-up until the final approval. We will pay the card on the client's behalf, and then we collect the card and send it to our clients. And what is important to mention here is that we also have hosting services that will be able to help you during all of your stay here in Portugal. And we have contact of a Portuguese teacher that will be able to help our clients to achieve their grade in the exams that they will need to obtain either the permanent residency or the nationality. So, as mentioned before, there's our workflow. We have one boarding team that will help the clients during the beginning of the process. Then we will be presented to the lawyers who is going to be the responsible for all of your file. We have a paralegal team that do the back office work. We have the translators that will also translate all the needed documents for staff. And then we work together with investor relations, hosting, and Portuguese classes. Just for you to have an idea about our numbers, now we have more than 1,900 investors. We have more than 85 nationalities. during the period of time since June 24 till December 22, we have had more than 700 appointments. Then you can see the daily average of appointments. Until September, we have accomplished more than 450 public bids. We have had more than 700 bank accounts open, more than 1,300 requests for NIF, and more than 700 approvals. So now just to briefly explain you the Golden Visa program itself. As you may know, there are many options of obtaining the Golden Visa. The most recognized one is the one where you made an investment in a real estate. And the best option in our opinion is the rehabilitation category, which is the one that we work precisely with. As Jordi mentioned, you have an investment of 350,000 euros in the main cities, and then you will have an investment of 280,000 euros if you go through the smallest towns. There is no age limit for you to be an investor. Naturally, there's you need to be of age, but there's no age limit apart from that. You don't need to have any management experience. There is no education limit. You don't need to prove your financial. Obviously, you will need to have the source of funds for the opening of the bank account, but for the program itself, there is no need. You will be able to maintain your investment for 5 years, and at the end of the year 5, you will be able to apply either for citizenship or permanent residency. One thing that is very important, and I think it's the main key of the Golden Visa, is that you will be considered a resident here in Portugal, and you will only be obliged to stay here 7 days per year. That's the main point of the Golden Visa program, and naturally you will be able to bring your family with you. Now we can see just the timeline of the Golden Visa. We start in the year -1. Now it is taking a little bit longer than that, but it's more or less like that. The year -1 is where we will sign all the contracts, obtain the NIF, open the bank account, and do the public bid. After that, and when you have all the civil documents, we will start the online submission. Then after the online submission, you will need to wait for the pre-approval, and after that, the notification from SAF to come to Portugal. And after that is when you will have your biometrics, which is the year 0. You will need to wait around 6 to 8 months to obtain your final approval, and then you will be granted a residency card. That card will be valid for 2 years, meaning that at the end of those 2 years, you will need to come once again to renew, and then once again at the year 4. And at the year 5, you can either choose to apply for permanent residency or citizenship. Now, something that is very important and that everyone, I think, have heard about was about the statement of the Prime Minister. What we can tell you about it is that today we do not have, there's no change, no absolute change in the program. So that was something that was said by the Prime Minister, but we do not have yet any evidence of that. The national budget is going to be voted in the 25th of November, and if is there something about it, and if it is approved, then we have a scenario for the beginning of 2023. What will happen is that if it is approved, as Jordi mentioned, the alterations will not be implemented immediately. We expect that those alterations will be enforced in 2024. And what is important here is that everything, all the files that were submitted until that moment will not be affected. So as Jordi told, if possible, that's now it's the best time to do the investment, so that we can start the online submissions and make sure that even if an alteration of the law is made, you will not be applied. It will not be applied to you. So now just to end my presentation and about the International Atlantic Services, why should you work with us? As I told before, we are 100% focused on the Golden Visa process. So we are one-stop in one shop where the investors have answers to all the stages of the Golden Visa. We have competitive legal fees. We have close relationship with the banks. We have an online platform designed for our Golden Visa clients, where the clients will have access and can see the stage of their application. We are composed by experienced lawyers and paralegals. We regularly go to do presentations, roadshow. So you can always be in touch with us. We have partnerships with the top market players in tax, accounting, and banking matters. And as I told before, we have a bilingual team. However, we also have lawyers and paralegals that talk Chinese, French, Spanish, Russian, and Vietnamese is also available. From my part, that's it. Thank you once again for inviting me, and I will be available to reply to the questions that you might have.
Excellent. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, everyone. So that's taken us through the background to Mercon. Just reinforce the fact that they are the #1 in the industry, working in the Portuguese Golden Visa industry. And of course, the support services from the legal team, you've got absolute specialism there as well. Now, we touched very briefly on what some people would say is the main content of the presentation. And certainly as a broker perspective, us at Holborn Pass, we were alarmed when we saw the statement by the Prime Minister. And rather than us ourselves wanting to portray some in-depth inside knowledge of the Portuguese situation, we thought it much better to get someone with real Portuguese heritage on the webinar to be able to talk about it. And as you've just heard there, it's very, very reassuring that both Jordi and Sylvia, they're of the opinion that the changes, if they do come, there's no categoric changes yet, but if they do come, they'll be effective in 2024, not 2023. And Sylvia, I think if you'd like to just correct me if I'm wrong on this, but what we're saying to people is that there's probably a window of next year, early now to next year, whereby people can apply in confidence that there will probably be very little interruption or concerns. Would you be kind enough to maybe share an opinion on what that time frame would look like next year in terms of best advice for people? Should they be thinking of rushing a decision? We hope not, but what's the current thoughts in terms of getting ahead of the time curve?
Okay, so first of all, I think that we will need to wait and see until the 5th of November to see what is going to happen, if something is even going to happen, because we don't know. But naturally, if some alteration is made, it cannot be you cannot make an alteration on the law and make it effectively immediately. So there will be a time frame, and we are expecting that this time frame is the year of 2023. And the reality is that no law can be applied for the past. So all the applications that were made until, let's say, if it is approved, and worst case scenario, because even if it's approved, it doesn't mean that the program is going to end. The Prime Minister said that they are reviewing the program itself. It does not say that it is going to end. So there may be only some alterations of the program, and so we don't know. But in the worst case scenario, imagine that they say that the program will end. We think that this will only be effective in 2024. So until then, the clients are free to do the investment and to do the online submissions. That was the same that happened precisely in 2020, as Jordi mentioned, where there was an announcement on alterations of the law, and it in fact was changed. And by that time, it was not anymore available, the real estate for housing purposes, but all the clients that made their investments until the end of last year, even if it was for housing purposes, they were able to submit their files, and they were able to be analyzed, and naturally they will be able to renew and to do everything normal. So all the investments that are made since now until we expect the end of 2023 will not have any impact.
Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, everyone. So for the delegates, the participants who are online now, there's the Q&A function at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to go on there and type out whatever questions you wish. And of course, we'll, as hosts, we'll have a look at those questions and answer them to the best of our ability. Whilst we're waiting for a couple more questions perhaps to be posed, I want to take the opportunity to revert back to Jordi and ask a simple question, Jordi, if I may, and that is that as some of the people might be looking towards the Portuguese Golden Visa program and knowing now that there is potentially some changes in sight, what would you say, Jordi, is the main strength of Mercan in the way that they do the business within the scheme? Of course, people are aware there is lots of other developers as well, but what would you say is the real strength of Mercan and what that represents to a potential investor who's looking for safety and security, please?
I think there's no doubt there's one, which is the track record. And the track record, we are the only developer in this category with 5 properties already operating. We are the only developer in this category that has already been paying rent to investors. And this comes as a result of having an experience of over 30 years on being in this activity, number one. And number two, comes as a result of getting one of the most qualified teams in 3 areas. One, which is in terms of development and construction management, where we got a team which was coming from the leading Portuguese developer in the retail area. We have a very strong team in hotel management, and then we have a very strong team in operations, where in terms of both at the corporate level, in terms of investor relations, in terms of hosting, in terms of finance, as well as in the partnerships that we have with IAS and with other companies, the group of 100+ people that are part of this support, we think that's what makes the Mercan proposition different than others.
Thank you, Jordi. Thank you so much. Okay, we've got a couple of questions coming now. I think both may relate to the area, the technical area, where Sylvia, if you may help us with these. There's a couple of questions. One asks about the requirement to speak the Portuguese language, and also a question about the delays that did apply, sadly, in the scheme, whereby the applications for the Golden Visas were held up substantially earlier this year. Would you be able to help us, Sylvia, on both those? First of all, the question about the requirement for the Portuguese language, please.
Yes, of course. So about the Portuguese language, it is not mandatory for the Golden Visa. which means that it's not mandatory for the first residency permit. However, at the end of year 5, if you want to apply for nationality or permanent residency, then you will need to speak Portuguese. That's why we have the contact of a Portuguese teacher, because the great majority of our clients want to go either for the citizenship or permanent residency, and she can help our clients. And what is important to mention is that you don't need to wait until the year 5 to do the exam. You can do the exam whenever you want, and you just need to pass it once, because there is no validity on that. Even if you fail, then you can do it once again, and you only need to pass once.
Excellent, thank you, Sylvie. And also, could you touch on the delays whereby some applicants said that their biometric process was delayed?
Yes, in fact, we have been living a different time. That was due to first we had COVID, and then we've had our thing with the elections, where the government changed. Although it was still the same, but we have to pass through the elections, and that was why we have that big delay, because first of all, the clients were not able to come to Portugal, and now SEF needs to catch up everyone. That's why they are starting to notify people, and they are doing it by chronological order. There was a period of time since January to June, and that was related with the elections and the state budget and everything, where the system was down. Now everything is back to normal, and everything is now running I think a little bit better. So we are expecting to have everything back to normal. We cannot tell exactly when, but when everyone is notified, I think that everything will start go smoothly. That's our expectation.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. Thank you so much. We have another question from Mohammed asking about the time period within the 5 years after the process has been initiated, asking about extra other costs essentially throughout the process. Would anybody wish to advise on that? Probably not on a very detailed level, but whether there is any other costs during those 5 years.
Yeah, there are the extra costs for the renewals. Every time that the clients come to the renewal, they will need to pay a government fee of the analysis of the file, which is 560 or something like that, but it's around that. And then they will also need to pay for the issuance of the card, which is around 2,500 euros. It's around that. And then naturally there's the legal fees if you choose to work with us, and the fee for the tax representation. In some cases it is paid up front, in other cases it is paid annually. So that's maybe the costs. I think that I'm not missing any costs. I don't know if Jordi, if you have any update on that.
Yeah, I think that's correct, and we can provide the cost table as per request for detailed number of family members, but that's quite accurate. Yeah.
Thank you, Jordi. That's great. Thank you very much indeed. And just to reassure everyone, we're more than happy to get copies of the data and the presentation out to everyone who's attended. There'll be a standard email going out to everyone asking if you want copies of that. So rest assured, we will follow up. Okay, so Noor has posed a question there for us, something that many people ask, and that is that during the process, if someone wants to withdraw from the Golden Visa, can they do so? And secondly, do they lose the investment monies? So maybe that's a question for Sylvia or Jordi.
Maybe I can start with Sylvia, might want to add. So as developers, so what is the responsibility we have in the buyback if someone wants to pull out from the application. So as I mentioned, there are different timelines when an investor can call the buyback. So one of the rights that the investor has is to request the buyback, no matter what, on year 6. So no further requirements. Someone might change their mind during that period. On year 6, they can get their full amount back. No questions asked.
Thank you. Okay, great stuff. All right, so that's very, very reassuring indeed. And there's a question here about what are the desirable property areas still applicable for Golden Visa now that Lisbon is no longer part of the Golden Visa? Would we like to just clarify that, because certainly Lisbon can be part of the Golden Visa process?
Yeah, that's Mark, that's a very interesting question, because it might lead to some confusion. And as Sylvia said before, yes, there was a change in the law which was applicable since last January 1st, 2022, which says that no more residential properties in Porto or in Lisbon or some of the major urban areas qualify for a Golden Visa application. However, any commercial property in Porto or in Lisbon or in any of the major urban cities still qualifies for Golden Visa application, which is exactly what we are doing. Our properties, some of them are in Porto and in Lisbon, and because a hotel is considered a commercial property, they can continue to invest into hotels or any other type of commercial properties in Porto and in Lisbon.
Excellent. Thank you, Jordi. That's brilliant. Very reassuring indeed. Okay, excellent stuff. Okay, so that is all the questions that have been posed currently. And it's great to hear the people from Mercan answering with the real degree of detail and the background that they have actually working on the ground there in Portugal and having the live knowledge. Many people say that they would really like the opportunity to listen to the developers and the lawyers actually involved in the process, rather than just speaking to us or the brokers based here in the GCC. So hopefully that's what we've achieved today. There isn't currently any new questions. There's just Henry there's asked, will a recording of this webinar be made available? The answer is yes, Henry. We're going to make this available to people who have attended. We will follow up on everyone. Of course, everyone who's attended was kind enough to supply your email address. So we have that conduit and we'll get the information back out to everyone. Equally, of course, we do say that many people will have follow-up questions. People want to have a more bespoke approach to this topic, and we're going to make ourselves available to everyone for a follow-up, whether people want a phone call or maybe a Zoom call to discuss on a one-to-one basis. That's what we commit to make sure that everyone's going to have the time to express their own thoughts and their own questions, which they may not want to do on this public forum. So I don't think there's any further questions. Henry's just said thank you, Henry. Thanks for your attendance, and we hope that the questions have all been answered. Just one last opportunity. There's literally a few minutes left. Has anyone else got any questions at all? If so, please be brave enough to go on there and click and type them out. Don't hold back anything at all you want to ask. All your questions are welcome. Whilst I'm inviting that, I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Karina, to Sylvia, to Jordi as well. Really appreciate your time. Very, very helpful indeed. And I just want to summarize again the situation we find ourselves in, and that is that the Portuguese Prime Minister made the statement. That was within a broader context of wider discussions in a political climate. We, of course, because we're in the industry, we picked up on this. We potentially, maybe we overreacted, but the clamour from people who we speak to who were very, very interested in the scheme was that they wanted information very, very quickly, and they wanted to be supported. And we then thought, okay, it's better to ask people who they want to hear from. And the majority of people said we would like to hear from people who are based in the industry, but in Portugal. So our response was to go to the #1 developer and the #1 legal service associated with that developer and get Mercan and IAS online to answer your questions. So we'd like to think we've done that. We'd like to think the response was appropriate. As I said, the follow-up will be there. Just one more time, thanks to everyone who's attended. Really appreciate your time. We hope it's added value. We do promise to follow up for everyone with an email and a phone call to make sure that any questions you do have, we will make sure they're answered and give you whatever support you require. And lastly, just to say thanks again to Jordi, to Sylvia and to Karina. Thanks ever so much for your support.
Thank you, Mark.
Cheers. Oh, actually, I'll just yeah, there is one more question. There is actually, before we run off, let's have a look here. One of the questions from Marwan is that we can still invest in houses in some smaller regions. Is this correct?
Yes, that's correct. You can still invest in residential in the rural areas. That's correct.
Thank you, Jordi. Thank you very much. Hope that's answered you there, Marwan. And lastly, Mohammed posed a great question there. He says, what is the total cost for the application, including all services? And what are the payment terms? Now, that's quite a big question. I don't know whether it's appropriate to try and answer on here on the group, but equally, Mohammed, we want to try and get that answer if someone's able to say, roughly, it's this much. So I don't know whether Jordi or Sylvia or Karina would like to attempt to answer that. If it's not possible, we can take that up on an individual level with Mohammed, of course. But the opportunity is there for us if we could respond to Mohammed's question, if he wants a ballpark figure.
Yes, happy to respond, because obviously any clarifying question, I think, will help everyone. And I think there are two questions there which are very important. One, which is the payment terms. So it's very important to understand that the full investment has to be done before the application. So the full investment and the proof of ownership of the real estate in that case is part of the application. So number one, full investment before the application is submitted. Number two, in terms of cost, there's two things that need to be taken into consideration, which is the real estate transaction. And because we pay for the property tax and because we pay for the VAT, so the real estate transaction cost, which includes the stamp duty, the notary fees and the registration fees, is around 2,000 euros for each one, the 280 and the 350. And then in terms of the Golden Visa processing, there's two different things, which are the legal fees and then the government fees. I'm just going to touch upon the government fees. The government fees, we need to take into consideration that there's an application fee, as Sylvia said. There is a renewal fee, which happens on year 2, on year 4. So if we take the government fees to be paid at each one of these 3 milestones, application plus 2 renewals is about, generally speaking, just to give a rough number, is for the application is around 5,000 euros per person, 2,500 euros per person on each one of the renewals. So we should count, as the fees are today, around 10,000 euros per family member of government fees.
Excellent. Jordi, thank you very much. Thank you. It's quite a daunting topic to be able to discuss the concept of pricing, of course, because every family is different. The numbers will vary, but that's really, really helpful as a guideline. Thank you so much. I'm just going to check before we say goodbye to everyone. I'm just going to confirm that there's no new questions. Marwan just added in there, he mentioned specifically an area like Aveiro. So we're just confirming that's a small region outside of Porto, which presumably would attract the means to be able to invest in residential property still. Is that correct with Aveiro?
No, Aveiro is no longer available.
Right, okay.
Because it's a part of the metropolitan area of Porto.
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So, yeah, thanks for that addition, Marwan, but I think that's answered the question. So, Okay, we're just on the hour. I'm mindful that people have got lives outside of this presentation. So I just want to say thanks again to our three guests from Mercan, Jordi, Sylvia and Karina. We really appreciate your support. Thanks from myself and us here on a broader level at Holborn Group, namely Holborn Pass. And thank you to everyone who's attended. We really, really appreciate it. And we will follow up and contact everyone and make sure anything you need, we will get to you. Thanks again for your time, everyone. Bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.